this. If you miss something or you want to go back, I'll send everyone the link. I'll put it up on YouTube if you want to see it. I'll also put it off of our main page, which is right here. If you look at our main page, when you log into Moodle, we're right here, the Teaching Through Disruption page. I'll also put it up here in case you want to get it. I'll do that right after now, so you should get it. But I want to keep my screen on a class. I just opened up a class that I used, I think, last year to give examples for some of this. So I'm recording right now. I guess we'll get started. And there's basically a few strategies that you can use to get the gradebook working for you. And it can be complicated, like I said. And I'm a big advocate of keeping it as simple as possible. And that's, of course, for you and your students. And I also want to give my standard now common disclaimer on Zoom about children, dogs. If the FedEx guy comes now, you'll hear my dog. Anything else, because that's the world we live in right now. So please forgive me. The other thing, of course, is there's no polite way on Zoom to interrupt, so don't even worry about it. If you have a question, just please, interrupt me. It's not rude, no problem at all. I want to make sure I answer your questions anyway. So please just jump in if you need to. Okay. I have a few basic ideas about how to keep the gradebook manageable. And by manageable, I mean understandable. And these are the 4 that I've really boiled it down to. We have to have a simple grading formula, and we'll talk about each of these in turn. Moodle likes courses out of 100, course totals out of 100. I'll explain that in a little bit. Categories are critical in your gradebook. It becomes very unwieldy without them. And weighting is always confusing for us and our students, so I want to talk something about that. Another thing I'm not writing here, you don't see, is that at the end of this, when we go over why these are all good ideas, I'm going to show you how to completely ignore them and do something totally different, which is a different way of grading, which I've come to the conclusion many folks are actually using without realizing that they're using it in the way that Moodle wants them to. So let me get rid of this. And here is my course. This is an old course, I think, from a year ago or so. And there's real students in this course, but of course, I think we're allowed to use them because it's a training thing. I don't think it's a violation of any sort. So if you see any grades here, please forgive me, but I have to show how this thing works because grades have to be in the gradebook. So my first thing that I say is keep it simple, and the gradebook has to reflect what you say in your syllabus. So for example, here's the syllabus from this course. I pulled it out and I go down to where I talk about the grading, and you can see here, let me see if I can even make that bigger. This is where I tell the students there how they are graded. I keep it really simple: participation, essays, and I have 2 tests, a midterm and a final, 15 points each. And my gradebook must reflect what I have in the syllabus. In the fall, if you could design your course beforehand, that's not really a problem because it should reflect it. What we saw in the spring is because people were really scrambling to try to make their courses work. And remember, we started halfway through the term. It was really hard. And when I was working with gradebooks for folks, I noticed that a lot of times the syllabus was not, or the course outline was not agreeing with the gradebook. And I think that was inevitable because people were just trying their best to make things work. But hopefully in the fall, if we have some time where we can make this look right, it should agree. And I'm going to say this probably 10 times during this training, but I'd be happy to go over your gradebook once you have your course set up to the point where you think the gradebook is ready. Please just drop me a help desk ticket, and I'll be happy to go in there just to verify that the numbers are all working correctly. One more thing is that if you add during the course in the fall, like a quiz or something else, or maybe you remove something, your gradebook may not work correctly. So if you do that, please also feel free to drop me a line and say, can you take a look at my gradebook? I made this change. Does the calculation still work? Because we do want the students to be able to see at any time how they're doing. It's also not my place to tell you how to run your course. If you want to add things or subtract things, please just ask for help. I don't even understand most of the stuff. You should see when I help the VetSci faculty, I don't have any idea what the stuff they're grading is. So I just look at the numbers. So please don't worry about that. So think about what can be grouped together. And in this case, in my history class, these are the categories. I go to Gradebook Setup. That's where everything starts. And here are my categories. You see, it's very simple. I have essays, and right here, they're worth 50% of the grade, although there's a little caveat in there I'll share with you. I have midterm worth 15%, and my participation grade, in Moodle, they call it rating. It's not grading with a G, it's rating the posts. I rate them, and they're worth 20% of the final grade. You will notice something though here. I do not have a category for my final exam. When you create an assignment, it just goes wherever it goes on the bottom here unless you tell it to. So let's talk about that first. There's two ways that I can get an assignment in a category. Well, the first thing is I have to create the category. And that's done very simply right here where it says add a category. If you're just making your course from scratch, I would strongly recommend that you start with the gradebook and create the categories. Because then when you create assignments or quizzes, then you can automatically put them in there. You don't have to juggle anything. So I'm going to create a category here for the final exam. And it's very simple. I'm going to expand all. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it final exam. I'm not going to touch any of this stuff yet, except I care about the maximum grade because I said in my syllabus that the final exam is worth 15 points, 15 percentage points, excuse me, it's the percentage. So maximum grade here means how much I want it to be in the class. I save the changes, and now you'll see, by the way, what this means is that I have students in the class, and so it's telling me it's recalculating their grades, but I graded them a year ago, so it doesn't matter. So now I have the exam, final exam category, but the final exam still isn't in it. And here's how we take care of that. This little weird symbol, I don't even know what it is. It's like a cracked box or something. I click it, and a new screen shows up, and it tells me, it asks me, where do I want it to go? Well, I want it to go under final. So I click that. It does its recalculating thing again. And now you'll see that the final exam is where it's supposed to be in the category. And the reason I want the categories is because I want this. I want these grades, 20, 15, 50, and 15. This is the percentage out of 100. So, for example, if I want to add an essay, it only will always be 50% of the final grade. I could have 3 essays in here. I could have 40 essays in here. I'm telling Moodle to only calculate all of that as 50% of the grade. So here is the other way that we can add something into a category. I am just going to go make a fake new essay. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to add an assignment, which is the essay. So I'm just going to say fake, if I can spell it right, whatever, I can't spell. And I'm going to just go down to grade. You'll see it asks me, where do you want to put it? So in this case, as I'm making my course, if I have the categories already set up, which I recommend, all you do is you click and you say where you want it to go. If you have your categories set up to begin with, this is a simple process. And you'll now notice in the gradebook, again, it put it where I wanted it to go, right here. It plopped it in here. Unlike the final grade, which I had to move around, which can be a bit cumbersome. It works. It just takes a bit more time. So one of the #1 rules, if you're making a new course, set up your categories first. It's a lot easier to do it that way. Okay. So in most courses, grades are naturally grouped in these categories anyway. And like I said, if I set it up this way, it doesn't matter how many I have in here. If you want to add a quiz, you can actually do that and it won't affect the grade. If you add a new category or change these around, then of course it will. Now, one little thing here I want to throw in here because this is confusing. Let's say I want to change this total. It says 50 for the essays. You would think you'd go right here to where it says edit, but it doesn't let me do anything. There's a calculation there, which we'll go over in a little bit. You actually have to change the grade next to the name of the category up here, where it says edit settings. It's a little confusing. And even folks who use Moodle all the time still ask that question. And here is where I would change the maximum grade for that category. I'm not going to change it though, but that's how you do it. It is a bit confusing. Now, once again, my categories equal 100. And the reason I like that is because points and percentage when you're dealing with 100 is exactly the same. If I get 50% of my points out of 100, it's still 50 points or 50%. That's the reason why I strongly recommend you try to make everything out of 100. It just makes sense for everybody. Okay, let me keep going here. The next thing is to keep weights understandable. And this is confusing for us. And if it's confusing for us, it's got to be confusing for our students. And here is a big change. In the main, this is my overall category, which is my course. It defaults to this. Simple weighted mean of grades, but I have other options. A lot of these I almost never see people use. There's a few that other folks do use, which I'd like to talk about in a bit. But the default means simple weighted mean of grades. The numbers I put in for the category are the percentage that is used for the calculation. However, I have another option. And let me show you what that looks like. Let's just say in my discussions, for some reason, I want some to be weighted more than others. But right now, they're all 100 points. They're all weighted the same. Let's say I go to participation and I change it from simple weighted mean of grades to weighted mean of grades. And by the way, I don't know who chose these terms. They're not helpful to me, but I've had to learn what they mean. Now you'll see something show up, and again, it's recalculating again. You see these boxes that show up. This is very confusing, but I want to make it as simple as possible. You'll see it defaults to they're all equal. It doesn't mean each one is worth 1 point. It means in relation to each other, they're all worth the same. This 1.0 could be 37. As long as all the other ones are 37, they're all equal to each other, and the weight will be the same. But let's say the chapter 16 discussion, I now want to be worth double what the other ones are. I'm going to go down here to save, and you'll now see, that's annoying, that I have now told the gradebook, out of this 20% of the final grade, I want the chapter 16 discussion to be worth more than the other ones. Again, it's not worth 2 points, and these are worth 1. It essentially means it's worth double. If I want to make this one 5, I can do the same thing. It's now worth 5 times what the other ones are, and 2.5. See, there's my disclaimer. My phone's going off. So that's what this means. If you would like to have within a category different weights, this is the simple way to do it. And again, I can help you with this if you want to have someone look at it when you're done.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
So an alternate way of doing that would be to use the simple weighted means of grades, but give chapter 16 discussion 200 points and the rest of them 100 points. That would achieve the same goal?
I don't believe it will, because if this is still all 1, these are all the same, it's going to calculate them the same. These numbers 100 are simply the defaults that Moodle comes up with. Some folks have a quiz worth 10 points, and they just have 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, or a discussion. So these numbers simply show what you are doing it out of, but these are the keys to how it affects the percentage.
But if I had, like, let's say I had 4 discussions that were like 10 points, and then 1 discussion that was 20 points, is that gonna, with the simple weighted mean of grades, is that gonna give more weight to the 20 point?
I don't believe that it does, even though it seems like it should.
Okay.
Because this, I think, sort of like overrides it. If you have it as 200 max, and you give a student a 200, that's essentially full credit of this number. So even though it sounds like it should, that has not been my experience. Now, I also use this example when I do this in person, which goodness knows when we're ever going to be able to do that again. If you're in New York City and you ask 10 people how to get to LaGuardia Airport, you're going to get 10 different answers. It's like that with the gradebook. There's so many ways to do these things. For example, let's say I want to change this whole course to weighted mean of grades. I can still, I'm kind of afraid to do it. Let me do it anyway. Okay, I'm going to blow it up. It's over now. You'll see now the boxes show up for every category. I could do it this way and then change these weights. So I could do it a different way, but it still would come out the same. I hate this. I got to move it. I can't even look at it. There are many ways to do it. And Maria, I'm actually going to go back and look to your question now, because I believe I'm right, but now you've made me question. So I'm going to go back and look, and I'll reply to everyone if I find that.
Well, along that same note, is there a way to like set up a dummy course and create a dummy gradebook so that we can play around with this? Or is that something that...
No, happy to do that for you. If you just...
So we would just ask you to create a dummy course.
Yeah, please just drop us a help, because I may not get it, but someone in the office will. Just say, please set up a sandbox. And you can then play, you can blow it up if you want, and no one will mind. So yes, that's a great idea.
Okay.
Hey,
thanks.
John.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Just while we're talking about sort of the points versus, weights and percentages and such, there have been a few questions on what changes to make if they're not using 100-point system, in which case it would equate to 100%.
Right.
So just looking at the latest question, if you use points, what do you put in for the aggregation when you aren't totaling to 100?
Yes.
Would you just put? Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I was just wondering, would it be the number of total points that you have in your syllabus, be it 200 or whatever?
I would recommend using what I'm going to show in a little bit to solve that problem. And it's a points system as opposed to a percentage. Everything I've shown here is really a percentage system, but I'd like to then show points because I think that may help with that question. And I really came across this. I'll go over it in a minute. There's a few more things I want to touch base, but there is a whole other way to do this, which negates everything I've just been explaining what you should do. But let me get there in a minute. Once again, I want to show how it looks with the entire course. So I'm going to go up to the top here, and I'm going to edit the settings. And I'm going to open these up a little bit. You'll see this here. Exclude empty grades is defaulted. This is in every class, and what this means is that if you have an assignment coming up, it hasn't opened yet, which of course means it hasn't closed yet, it's not included in the total grade calculation that the student will see during the term. This is one reason why it's important to have your assignments close properly, because then the student will see a dash, which means they haven't submitted anything. They won't see a 0, but they'll see a dash, which means they have not submitted. It's a different thing. So this is defaulted, and that's what it means. So I can't imagine why you'd want to not have that, but that's the reason. Okay, here's the other reason why I'm here. You'll see in my...
Hey, John, just sorry,
yes.
A quick question on that.
Please.
I had a lot of students who just didn't submit assignments this year, and so it showed up as being, no grade.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure whether or not that was calculated as a 0 or, not included in their average.
That's
what that excluding empty grades means?
Well, this excluding empty grades is usually for the term, because if assignment has not been opened or due yet, we're not going to give them a 0 for not even knowing it's an assignment yet. But at the end, here's what you will see. I'm going to just go quickly to the user report. And again, forgive me for using a student name here, but it makes sense. You'll see that I have 5 grades that I count, the 5 highest grades for essays. I give them 14 essays, 1 a week. They can do as many as they want, and I choose the 5 highest. This student only did 3 of the 5. So essentially, all of these, they're not really zeros, but they only did 3 of the 5. So look at how many points she got. She got a 45% of that. Now this says of the ones she did okay, but she only got 45%. So at the end of the class, the gradebook will call those zeros. It will grade them as zeros. In this case, 3 of the 5 she did. So 2 of the 5 are graded as zeros. That's why she got less than 50%. So to answer the question, the gradebook, when the course is over, will show you will calculate zeros, but the student will still see a dash, and you will see a dash, which means they didn't turn it in. So yes, long-winded.
But I think, is it important to note, so I had students during the semester that just had those dashes for things they didn't turn in.
Yeah.
But they thought their grades were higher than what they actually were because it didn't go to zeros until the end. So that was to be aware of. It
is not perfect, and you're exactly right in that regard. And maybe I shouldn't admit this to anyone because I'm doing the gradebook presentation, but what I do at the end of the class, when I go into the report here, I actually export all of the grades into Excel, because I choose the ones I want or whatever. And then I do Excel calculations just because I'm comfortable with it, and I've been doing it for years. So I realize I sound terrible. I'm asking you to use the gradebook, and I'm telling you at the final calculation I don't do it. And in the gradebook, in Excel, in the spreadsheet, I do a replace, find and replace. I replace dashes with zeros just so I see it. Again, maybe I'm old school. That's just what I'm used to. But yes, the students at the end may be flummoxed. All of a sudden, they're doing poorly. So let me go to the setup again and get back to,
John?
Yes.
On that screen that you just had up there, what I do after that assignment comes in, if you go down to the bottom there, you can just change it to a 0. You know how you regrade and the zeros automatically, or that way the students see it. You know, I'll do it as we go through the semester.
I think that's a very smart idea. That way they're not confused at the end. Why am I doing worse than I thought I was doing? That's a great idea. Matter of fact, I think I just stole that idea from you. I'm going to do it now. So here's, excuse me, how I do the essays. As I mentioned, I give them 14 essays. They can do as many as they want, but I choose the best 5. I would love it if students did the first 5, and if they're happy, they stop doing it. But you probably know what I'm going to say next. Many students start with number 10, and then they just accept what they get, which is always frustrating, but whatever, that's a whole other question. So what I do here, I want to keep 5. And I have some options, and one of these makes sense, and the other we're asking you not to use. Drop the lowest is what we usually say. We always say, I drop the lowest, whatever. In this case, it would be, what, if I do 5 out of 14. I drop the lowest 9. But that doesn't work, and I'm going to try to explain this. If a student submits a number of essays in this case, until they get to this number, I'm going to say 0. Until they get to 9, they see zeros because it's dropping in them. Even if they get hundreds, it's dropping until it gets to 9, and then it starts counting with the 10. So it's the opposite of what we want. So we are recommending using keep the highest, because what it does then when the student submits their first essay, it's keeping it and showing it. Student gets 100, they see 100. It's very confusing. And I actually tried to get rid of this drop the lowest and get, in the settings, and I couldn't find a way to do it. And I've gone online and people have said the same thing. Please use keep the highest because the calculation is more correct. At the end of the class, drop the lowest does work. But in my case, students would do essay after essay after essay, and it wouldn't affect their grade. And they might think they're doing great or doing terribly. So my very long-winded answer here is please use keep the highest. Okay. We went over excluding empty grades. Let me go on there. Now, this is where my mathematician friends probably think is so cool. And I look at it and I have no idea what the heck's going on. We have another option. You don't like any of this stuff. The categories, who cares? It's stupid. Under this course total, you'll see this option, edit calculation. It shows everything I have, and I have to name them. And then I come up with a calculation, but the calculation has to be done in an extremely specific way. And I'm going to show you what I found online here because I tried to make it up myself. Where is it? Here it is. You have to name each item something. You can probably just name it what it is. And then you have to understand what this stuff means, which I guess is sort of like a spreadsheet, I guess. I'm really out of my element. And then you have to create the calculation to make it do what you want to do. The reason I bring this up is because this can be very powerful. You can have all kinds of stuff in your gradebook. If you have all kinds of machinations going on, you can do it. I'm dumb when it comes to this stuff. I will be happy to help and I'll do research if you find that you want to have a calculation, sort of like an Excel calculation, which takes all these numbers and does things with them. So I bring it up here just to say it's an option, that it's confusing, but if you want to try to do something like this, I'll be happy to help you. Maybe I should say try to help you. So that is an option. Moodle is getting away from it. They are encouraging people to now not use that. And they're encouraging you to use something else. And here is sort of the new thing. And as I mentioned, I work with some vet sci faculty who used points instead of percentages. And at first I was confused. I don't know, how do you make this work? What do these numbers mean? And I finally realized how to make this work. And Moodle is now pushing this. And this is called the natural aggregation. And let me show you a gradebook which looks remarkably confusing, but it really isn't when we go over it in just a second. This is a gradebook that simply adds up points. You have all of your points. You give every assignment a point, and maybe in your syllabus, maybe you don't say essays are worth 50%. Maybe you say every essay is worth 10 points, or whatever points you want. Maybe you say, and then at the end, all of these students can achieve, I'm making this up, students can achieve 1,830 points for 100% or something like that. So maybe your syllabus doesn't have to look exactly like the one I showed you, which shows percentages. And this is called the natural aggregation. And we get to that by going to our gradebook again, wherever it is, here it is. And right by the name of the course, instead of simple weighted mean of grades, I'm now just going to choose natural. And this is going to destroy my gradebook. It's gone from now on. It's going to look awful. None of this makes sense to me now. But here is what it looks like. I'm now assigning each assignment, or in this case, I'm not sure what performance means. I found this online. This is what's important. The max grades. These are the points that you are going to be using. And so from this point on, this contemporary excerpt is 15 points. The one above it is 25. And that's how weighting is done. You decide on how much points to assign to every single item. But what about these? This makes no sense. 63.612, why is that there? It's simple, because in the gradebook, Moodle is adding these up, all the points that you've assigned for each of these items. And so it's 236 out of a total of 371, which is just about 64%. Now, I look at this and I'm totally confused. But what's happening is that it's just the points that are added up. So students from this point during the course will simply see how they're doing, points out of how many are available, and Moodle will also give them a percentage, which is nice, because I don't know what 236 out of 371 is in my head, but Moodle will tell the students on their grading report that that means you have a whatever, 60, or I don't even know what. So this is an option now. Moodle is pushing for this. They actually are hinting that they want to get rid of a bunch of those other options for the types of grades to use. My opinion is that choose the one you want, and if you have one that works, stick with it. In my case, I just destroyed the gradebook, didn't I? I like the fact that percentages mean something. Let me see if it goes back. I don't know if it will. I hope it will. I like the fact that each semester I remove some of these essays, I add new ones. I don't remove them, I just hide them, because that way I have them. Maybe 5 years from now, I'll use one of them again that I hid. And this number never changes, the 50%. So for me, I'm not sure points is what I want, because I change stuff every term. But if you have a reason to just have like lab 1, lab 2, lab 3, and you don't really explain what it is, it's just as sort of a placeholder, and you want to assign points to it, natural may be a better choice for you. Now, in my case, I think it would still say like 50, 20, because my gradebook is so simple. But if you have a lot of stuff, this may be confusing. And I think that's my biggest issue with the natural gradebook. I think categories can be confusing. And you can then ask, well, hey, why don't we just get rid of categories? Let's not use categories. And I would still recommend we use categories, because imagine if in my syllabus here, or my gradebook, all the stuff was just randomly placed and students want to see how they did on one thing. It may be confusing. So I think just for organizational purposes, we probably want to keep the categories, but it can be a little confusing, in my opinion, if these numbers kind of look the way that they do. But Moodle wants us to use natural. They like it. They're pushing it. I'm resisting. I think I'm the old guy now who hates change. I become that guy now. So I'm going to stick with mine. And if you like yours and it's working, don't play with it. Don't do anything if you like it and it works. Okay, let's take a break here. Any questions specifically about anything about the gradebook that you'd like to chat?
Yeah. Can you show how you can hide the gradebook from students?
Yes. Let me go here. It's a little hidden. It's easy to do, but it's hidden. Let's say, can I do the whole gradebook or just a category? Let me see. Here they are. If I go, let me show you how I did that. I went too quickly. Here's my gradebook. And let's do a category first. I want to hide the essays category for some reason. Maybe none of them are visible yet, whatever. Actually, there is a reason why you would hide a particular assignment, and that could be because maybe you want to grade them all and then have them all show up at the same time. Maybe because you can start grading when students can still submit, but you don't want them to see what other folks have already received as a grade. That's actually a really good idea. Let me show you to do it individually. Let's say essay 14. It's due in a week, but I want to start grading it. I'm going to go to Edit Settings. I'm going to expand this top. You'll see I have these options. I'm going to make it hidden until a certain date. I'm going to say a week from now. And I'm going to save the changes. What that means, you'll see that it grays out. The students don't see it. When it's gray in this category, the students don't see it, but I see it. So I can continue grading, and what this means is on the 19th or whatever day I picked, all the grades will become visible. It's as if I've returned them all at the same time. And I can do the same thing for an entire category if I want.
John?
Yes?
So I had my
Okay,
gradebooks. I had my gradebooks hidden in the spring because I hadn't had them set up before the switch and I did not convert them.
Yeah.
But I found that Starfish was pulling everything and showing it to the students.
Oh.
And I had tried to get in touch with Jeff, but we just never got a resolve to it. And I don't know on the individual grades if you hide stuff, if it will still pull to Starfish. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
I didn't know Starfish pulled from the actual grade.
Yeah, that might be a separate conversation.
Yeah, that's news to me. I'm kind of concerned about that.
When you
I'll
say
contact
that
Jeff and ask. Oh, sorry, Lee.
yeah, I was just sort of curious. When you say that it pulls it, do you know exactly what it was pulling?
So I have never, I plan to spend some time this summer and do it, but I've never done anything with the Gradebook because I've still been trying to get my courses where I wanted them, and it was beyond where I was at. So I just hid the whole Gradebook, and I had a bunch of students like 2 weeks before the end of the semester start panicking about their grades, and I checked my Moodle settings to make sure that the Gradebook was hidden because I wasn't understanding where they were getting this from other than like their items were graded, but they were aggregating points in really funky ways and it wasn't making a lot of sense to me. And so when we were in a Zoom, I just asked one of the students to show me, they said in Starfish, and I asked them to share. And there's a place in Starfish where they can see their grades for the course and it pulls it out so it looks just like it's set up in the Moodle Gradebook, which I had no organization to, and so I didn't have categories. I don't even know what grading system it was set to, but I use a points-based system, and so I think it was the 100%, and so they were looking at grades just totally out of line with how they were weighted within the course. And so I had some students who were doing phenomenally well and really weren't, and I had some students who were doing really poorly who actually weren't, but they were panicking about their grades because coming up in Starfish, and it was showing each individual assignment.
Boy, I'm a bit concerned because I had no idea that was happening. I do know who my next phone call is to after this is over, because that would mean literally that every gradebook must be perfect, and they're all not. I mean, especially in the spring when people were just basically just trying to get their courses running. Forget about the gradebook. So Desi, thank you for bringing that up. I have to follow up on that because that could be confusing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There is
it was students in my Principles of Healthcare 200 class. I don't know if one of them figured it out and then they shared it, but that was the class that I had the most in. I had a couple of kids in my law class, but I don't know.
Wow. I will look into it and I'll email everyone on the list here to share that information. There is one more way if you just don't want the students to see the gradebook at all. And now I don't know the answer to the question, but does Starfish still see it? If you just go to the main administration edit settings, the simplest way we can do this, one of the options down here is show gradebook to students. It's defaulted to yes, of course, but if you, for some reason, want to hide your gradebook, maybe you're working on it or changing it, you can always just click that to no, and then the students will not see it. You will, but the students won't. So that's an option as well. And now I'm worried about what we were just talking about.
John, this is Adrienne Clifford. I have a couple of questions as well. On the hidden part, I would hide the grade, but the grade would still calculate into their total. So
Yeah.
I would have a test that needed some kind of manual grading, but they would all start panicking because they're all of a sudden their average changed, but they couldn't understand why, because it looked like the grade was not yet available to them. Is there any
Yeah.
to exclude it while you are doing some manual grading, and you want to hide it, you want to show it to them, because hiding it doesn't take it out of their average calculation.
Right, it doesn't. Boy, that's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I can see exactly why we would want that.
I also have another question is, since I can never see what they see, I have students who sometimes have trouble finding my written feedback.
Yeah.
Show us what they see so we could guide them through it.
Sure. I have the option as a manager in the Moodle system, I have the option of logging in as a student. So I'm going to now just do that. Let me just we'll pick the student. And I'm going to log in as her. Faculty don't have this. It's not part of the permissions, but I do, so I can show you. And again, oh, you know why it's unavailable? Because the course is hidden. Let me quickly make the course show, because it's a good question. Yeah, I'm going to go to show. Now, as a student, I can see the course because a student can't see the course when it's hidden. So Moodle caught me. So I'm going to go to my course again. I'm going to log in as a student. And let me find student again. Log in. Okay. Here's what the student... Oh, let me try again. Where's my course? Oh, frustrating. Let me try again. Sorry. Oh. I promise it'll be worth it. I'm going to change it again to show. I'm going to save it, and then I'll log in as the student. Okay, here we go. Sorry for the mess. Dawn does not want to be seen. Okay, now I'm logging in as Dawn, and you'll see that students see their grades under the navigation block. Now, interestingly, there's going to be some changes to the blocks with the next version of Moodle, but we'll worry about that when it happens. Students go to grades right here, and here's what she will see. She will see all of my responses right there. So I'm now logged in as this student. She not only sees the grades, she sees the percentages, but she also sees exactly everything that I wrote. Now, they can also go into the assignment itself to see the same thing, but it's quite obvious, I think. I'm not sure if students are just not they're not going to the grade function. It is a little hidden under navigation, to be honest. It's kind of weird that it's just one line here, but it is clearly visible when you just click on grades.
Is there another place where they see all of their grades? And so it shows kind of like on Banco Hall when they first come in. That's to be where people were saying, but I can't see what feedback you are because they just take the shorter.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's the setting here about like all of your grades for your courses or something like that. I can't remember where that is, but yes, they will only see like the actual number, not feedback or anything like that. So I think we have to make sure the students are aware that they have to look here in the navigation block for their feedback. They can also, of course, look at each individual assignment to get that back too. But again, they have to go one by one by one. So yeah, that's actually a bit clunky. You're absolutely right.
Okay,
Hey,
thanks.
Yes.
And I'll put that in my syllabus.
Yes, actually, that's a great idea. Again, I'm stealing your idea now too. Thank you.
Hey,
Yes.
John, would you at some point, forgive me if I'm derailing your workflow, but at some point, could you show where the option is to have a grade hidden until a certain date?
Yes. We're in the gradebook. Oops, I'm the student. I have to log out. We're in the gradebook. And let's say we want this one. Well, I'll try the first one. I do the edit settings for the actual item. And here, I make sure it says hidden, and then I can put the date here. And once I save it, actually, because I put the date as today, I should change it and actually put the date as like tomorrow or something, because it'll stay hidden. Now you'll see it be hidden. I see it, the student does it. Even if I give it a grade, they don't see the grade, although as we know, it does go into the calculation. So that's how you would do it that way.
And then just one other question. When it comes time to enter zeros for those that did not submit an item, there's the perform bulk insert.
Yep.
And then clicking on empty grades and inserting 0. Is that the best way to go about doing that?
That's how I would do it. For example, in this first essay, I could click on this, I think it's a pencil, and I can go down to right here. I click on for empty grades, I want to give them a 0, and then save. And you'll see now in the gradebook, everyone has a 0 who didn't submit. And that's a simple way to do it all at once. Once the due date is up, that's a good way to do it. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it in my head, maybe I don't want the students to see a dash that I didn't submit. Maybe they should see the 0 if that's what I think they're getting. Maybe they should see that. That might make more sense. So yes, that's the simple way to do it. And you have to do it for each item, like I did it just for this first one. And when you look at this part of the gradebook, if you see something in tan, that means that you manually put them in. Everything else comes from the assignment when you're grading it online. If you see tan, it means you did something. You added that. In this case, it shows I manually added those. Any other questions, folks? And always, please drop us a help desk ticket. We can help you with anything, even just looking at your gradebook to see if it works.
I have a question.
Yes, Amanda.
So my homeworks are out of 10 points. And when you put assignments in the gradebook, it automatically defaults to 100.
Yeah.
So on one of my homeworks, I didn't catch that it had defaulted to 100, but it kept telling me because students had already submitted work, I couldn't change that to a 10-point total.
Yeah.
Is there any way around that? I hadn't graded them yet. The students knew that was 10 points, but because I had made a mistake and not changed that to from 100 to 10, it wouldn't let me change it, and I didn't know how to get around that.
It wouldn't even. I've seen the, let me find one here. I've seen the, like the error, the message that comes up to say, are you sure you want to do this? But you said it wouldn't even let you do it at all?
It said because work had been submitted, I couldn't change the total points.
Oh, you know what? In this case, it's grayed out, isn't it? Yeah, some grades have already, huh.
Yeah, it was a similar message, but it was because they had submitted.
I have a sneaky idea here. Let me see if this works. That's a good question. Let's say I want to change this one. Can I change no, it's grayed out. Huh. I think it's purposely preventing you from doing that, even if it's a mistake.
Can you
change
go back
the dates?
to the?
I've done it somehow. I just don't remember how I did it. I know it's doable because I've done it.
If you look closely at the warning that it gives you when you were going in the first way, the warning says you cannot change it unless you first choose whether to rescale your grades. You have to tell it, you basically have to tell it like, what are you going to do with the grades that have already been assigned? So if you go back into editing the assignment.
Yeah, let's try to do that. That's a good point.
I agree, Maria. That's how I've gotten around it. You just have to rescale the grades and it works.
So here is the grade. If you wish to change, you must first choose whether or not to rescale. So here, I guess I have to say yes. Then I can change it. So that's
perfect. Thank you.
No, thank you guys I would have like 3 this afternoon, it would have popped in my head. So thank you for sharing that. That's exactly the right thing to do. So I guess the error is basically saying, are you sure you want to do this? Perfect.
When you do that, just be careful because I usually catch it when I'm grading my second or third student and it will rescale the first ones you graded. So make sure you go and just check them and make sure they're correct.
Oh yeah, because then they'll be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Again, any questions, other things, folks? Happy to, again, happy to take any later questions. And seriously, I know I've said this 3 times, but we don't know what we're doing in the fall. I think I have an idea, but no one's told us anything. I realize that makes us the same with everybody else on campus. But if we're going on if we're going offline, or you have courses you know are going online, when it's ready, please just ask if I can look at, if you want, if I can look at your gradebook just to make sure the calculations work. If you want to, of course, just an offer, because it's easy to do and maybe I'll catch something or whatever.
John, can you show Barb's question regarding moving categories?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the thing. What's the question?
Thanks, Katie. I was just about to ask that.
Thanks, Katie.
So Barb had a question. How do you change the order of items within the categories?
Yes.
So I described that icon as cupped hands.
That's sort of what it looks like. Yeah, I'm going to take essay 2. I'm just going to move it to the bottom. What I do is I just clicked on those cupped hands, and now you'll see it says move next to it. I'm going to put it here. And now, there it is. It moved. And yes, I like to have everything in order. So when I redo my essays, I add new ones, I delete old ones. I then have to take a moment and just arrange them like this. I think it's OCD. I just have to have it properly done. I can also move an entire category around. If I click on the little cupped hands by midterms, I can put that below the final if for some reason I want to. And you'll see now I move the whole category. So that works too. I spend a lot of time making sure it looks right. I think I have a problem, I think. Because now I'm looking at it. I can't stand looking at it now. I'm not even going to look at it.
Another question.
Yes.
Just to confirm, when you use natural aggregation, can students see their current average at any point in the semester?
Yes, they'll also see the points, and right next to it, they will see the percentage of available points that they could have received. So Moodle is actually nice like that. It still shows them the understandable number of the percentage of how they're doing. And I don't have a natural one here to show, but if I go back, log in as a student and show the grade, you would see points out of and also the percentage. So yes, natural is pretty friendly. I like the categories myself, so that's why I think I'm resistant. Any other questions, folks? Thank you all for coming. Quite a large number of people here. I'm thrilled. Thank you for spending an hour with me. And again, happy to help in any other way that I can. So please contact us if we can help. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day.
John, just one thing before you go.
Yes.
You said you're going to send out the recording of this?
I will send it out if I can find a way to do like a group send out like email. I hope I can do that from Bronco Connect. But either way, I'm going to put it right here on the main page where we have Teaching Through Disruption right here. There's a video section here, video tutorials. I'll put it right on the top of this one. So that actually, you know what? Let's just do it that way because I'm not sure I can get everyone's email quickly. I'll just put it right there. Within like half an hour, it'll be there.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
John.